All right, so here's my first attempt at a DIY wool blanket anorak. This one, it took me a long time because I've never done it before and I wanted to have a kind of cool design. What ended up happening is you can see all the black here. This was a wool overcoat, cashmere wool, that had the lining starting to fall out of it. And let me turn this off. I think this is affecting the. Here we go. So the lining was falling out, and I thought, okay, I have this wool blanket. I'm going to make an anorak. Why don't I line it with the wool from the wool overcoat? So this is a 2-ply wool anorak, and this is an overcoat I had for like, God, my first job. Maybe it's like I had it for 25 years. You know, when that nylon lining falls out of it, I was like, I'm going to recycle this. So the cool things that I did with this is it has 2 pockets. This is like the hand warming pocket, and then I have a deeper pocket that goes all the way to the bottom. And in this one, I did some cool things, like I attached some carabiner hooks. I have some snaps that I can attach like keys to. So inside here, I have some zipper pouches. Like when you're making this, I have pouches inside of here, which you can't see, and I'm not really going to spend the time, but I can tell you about it because I'm going to make another one. I'm going to make one for a friend of mine. He sent me that wool blanket, as I mentioned. You know, but I have like this thing. I attached this to the other thing. I had all these like random snaps and clips and things. So I can attach this to a set of keys. Like if you're hiking through the woods and I have a carabiner, I can put my keys on there and not have to worry about it falling out or anything else. But the zipper pockets for like tinder or a lighter or a flashlight or your headlamp or whatever, you can put it all in here. You can put in your gloves, you put in your hat, you know, and these are awesome for that. I have a drawstring. I have one of these, you know, ball, catches. So this is made with the collar from the overcoat, and the concept of this one is I made it with a hood that snaps onto it. So I put on the snaps all the way around it, and what I find is that, you know, just doing this is pretty good. You know, like I'm pretty warm. I have a nice high collar, and I'm good. You know, if I was a professional tailor, I'd probably do a better job. But my next one's going to be better than this one. Like this was intentional. This started with these really cool buttons. These are like a buffalo nickel in copper, and I thought that was super cool. When I was looking at these anoraks, they have something that comes around here, like their hood is this, you know, has this built into it already. Where I think, you know, for most of us, we're not going to wear it like that all the time, and you're going to have to be breathing on it or whatever. So I did this with a pole with a hood, that buttons on. And I also did, I don't think I've ever used it, but I made this with Velcro so that it could Velcro in and act as that. You know, if I really was in cold temperatures, this goes inside of the hood, and then it just comes across here. So I could use this to keep the wind off my face and keep you warmer. So let me give you the full look of it. And I'm going to take you through it. I don't think I'm going to make another one exactly like these, but that's kind of the fun of it. I've seen the Filson brand. They have some really nice vests. So I have other blankets that I bought. I bought some wax cotton the next one I make of this Anorak style for my friend, I'm going to do some of the wax cotton on the shoulder, maybe a little, on the hood and on the elbow pads, just so those areas when you're walking through the woods and it's raining or snowing, and you get the places where where the snow is going to fall, and you're going to have it coming through and making it cold. It's going to be like your shoulders and your head. And then if you're laying your arms down on stuff, I'm going to do it, like a nice pad here. I saw a guy had already done one like that. Super cool. I'm going to steal some of his designs, because it's not stealing, because he's never made another one. So I hope you like it. I'm going to take you through the process of how I do the next one. I'm going to do two. I have a friend of mine that gave me a blanket to do it, and I have one for my son, which I intended to make. So this started for me. Let me just start in the beginning. I wanted a wool anorak. I saw the guy who makes them. They did these videos, and I went out on Facebook and I got scammed. I ended up ordering some. It looked like it was a sale. It was a good deal, and I ended up getting this really lightweight kind of nylon material. It was an anorak, but it wasn't a wool anorak. So they didn't really tell the truth. And, I didn't really overpay for it, I guess, for what I got, but it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a wool anorak. So I said, all right, I'm going to make one. And I went out online and I said, people are making them, I'm going to make one. And I did. You have to have a sewing machine, and you have to want to learn how to do it. And when I take you through it, there's certain procedures that you kind of have to do in an order. Otherwise, it gets all jacked up, and then you're stitching things in by hand like I had to do. And that's always the answer. Like, if you can't get it to work on the sewing machine, then you're going to have to do it by hand. And that is what it is. And if you had to make money doing it, you'd have to do it on a sewing machine. But since you're making it for yourself, and it's a hobbyist thing, like it was for me, it took as long as it took, and I finished it. And then there's some things I want to go back and improve on these coats, but they're mine, so I can improve on it. But there's some things this is the first thing I ever made, and I was so psyched. And I think the only things I'd want to do, but this is part of the jacket. This is the jacket. This is the original wool overcoat. That's the lining for here, and it's stitched in down there. But so this is a 2-ply coat. But this wool here of this blanket was kind of thin. Like, if I was going to do anything to this, I will put a second coat. I put a second layer of wool on here to strengthen this up a little bit. That's all. I have it here. This wool is very, this is cashmere. This is like an overcoat. But you could probably go convert an overcoat if you want. There's something unique about these. You want to pull over. You want it with the deep pockets so you can carry all your gear when you're messing around. Some people add a butt pocket. Maybe I'll do that on one of them. I was probably going to do that on like a wax vest for working, and I want to put on a cotton, like a wax cotton vest for when I'm doing crafting or work around the house or carrying nails. And I got little tools and screwdrivers and things because I'm doing some project. I'm going to build that into that vest, and I'll show you that when I get around to doing that one. That'll be after, and I will line that with a wool. The whole idea of this was to get away from all the synthetic fabrics that you buy a pullover and it's synthetic, and they have some not awesome characteristics that wool as a natural fiber has awesome characteristics. So that's why you may want to make one yourself. And going into the times with the cost of everything going up and the shortage of materials, like, you can reclaim fabrics and start to make things that are super cool, and you're gonna love them because you made it. And that's where I am with this. I can take some things and make my own hats. I can do whatever I want now that I know how to do it. But you're gonna have to have thread, needles, and the things you need, the snaps, the buttons, and then the hardest things probably to do is to make the buttonholes. Because I didn't really practice making buttonholes before I made the buttonholes. And you want to practice them beforehand because you don't want to get into the actual material and end up jacking up your buttonholes like that other Anorak has some jacked up buttonholes on it. Whatever, right? I'm going to get better at it. But I really like the design of this one. I'll find the hood and I'll attach the hood to it, and you can see what it looks like. And you're going to see me make another one if you want to stay around. Whenever this gets up, the next one will be the process of me making 2 wool anoraks at the same time. They're going to be similar. I don't know if they'll be the same because I don't know if I can make the same thing twice, look exactly the same. Sometimes you make a mistake and it turns into something cool. This coat right here started with this, just this piece, and then everything else took shape after that. The hood, which you'll see, this high collar, these bands across the shoulder. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just kept going for it. So stick with me. We're going to go for it again, and then do yours. And then when you're done with yours, I want to see it. Peace. Hello, YouTube. I'm going to show you my progress on a blanket wool anorak. I'm going to make a couple of them. I was on Facebook and I saw this too good to be true wool anorak, and I ordered one for myself and my son, and they came in and they were just cotton poly blend. And some of these Chinese websites are really very dishonest. When they're calling it wool, they're actually utilizing images from real wool anorak makers in the U.S. and they're saying all that? You're interrupting my video because. So I just want to tell you what happened there. I was sharing a story of why I made this anorak, and it was literally because I got kind of snookered by a Facebook ad where they show you these anoraks made by, I don't know if it was the guy from Boreal Mountain or whatever, and then they literally show them, splashing water on their anorak and doing the whole thing. And then I bought 2 of them, and when they came in, they were just not wool anorak. And I was starting to share that story. My wife was like, "Oh, don't say all that stuff." And that's exactly how she said it. Could you hear? So I wanted to include it in the video. Be careful when you're out on Facebook Marketplace. They do allow people to scam you. And that's why I made it myself, because then I know I'm not going to get scammed because I'm making it myself and I know what's that made out of, wool. So this is where I started off again after I ended up having to stop the video where it was because my wife had interrupted me because she didn't want me to share the story about what was going on with Facebook Marketplace and the scammers out there. So this is my redo of the video I had started. So here's my video for my wool anorak DIY put together. I saw guys making these DIY anoraks using a wool blanket. It's like $30. But I had an old overcoat where the lining was all ripped out of it, and I decided I was going to make a double lined wool anorak. So the wool blankets are not that thick, and I didn't want to go through the process of putting it back in with the batting and doing all that stuff, so I just figured I would cannibalize this old wool overcoat so I can have a double lined wool anorak. So here it is so far in pieces. You can see the overcoat is being used as the lining. Here's the back. So the back's all ready to go. I have in here sewn in the space for paracord or whatever to act as a cinch for the waist. I may, after I get this thing together, I may throw a couple buttons down here just so I can create a little more ventilation for the jacket and give a little more freedom of movement. So that's something I'm thinking of doing. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to use those old pockets from the inside of the jacket. I may create a way to go through the front of it to utilize the original pockets that are there. So the top, I'm at the lapel stage. I found this is the hardest part of the job, was stitching in the lapel, because I really can't use the machine. I guess I could, I'm a rookie. This is the first thing I've ever sewn in my life, so I really didn't have a whole lot of experience putting things together. So some of it's machine stitched, some of it's hand stitched. I learned how to use my sewing machine. I got this for like $110 over at Walmart. It's not a big deal, but it's a good machine. It does buttonholes. You can see I've attached buttons. I made buttonholes. I need to do a little bit of probably tightening them up a little bit. Found these really cool buffalo head nickel coin buttons that are going to look really nice on there. So yeah, we're in process. I'll show another process video when I put it all together. Here's a little bonus. I just want to show you what this garment started with. Just the idea for how to do the V that goes up to the collar. Found the buttons and I created this cool design, and everything came from that. This was a part of the pocket when I was getting that going, and then finally this is what's inside of that pouch. I have a couple different organizing pockets that I sewed on there. I have some clips, I have a carabiner attachment, and all this is hidden inside of the larger pouch. More to come. Stick with me. We're going to do this piece by piece with 2 new anoraks coming up. So I mentioned that it had a hood, but in the first video I didn't actually have the hood on there because I need to make some adjustments to it. Those button snaps, because the wool is kind of thin and they were kind of tight and pulling them off, it pulled through the fabric, and now I have to do a little repair for my hood to go back on to the jacket, but it works really well without it, and I think I may just go with buttons or with Velcro for the hood, although you know the problems with Velcro is it gets stuck to everything, so we'll see what I do, but I'll show that in another video. This is what it looked like from the front, all done.